So we're on page. We're learning Manachochem. We're in the middle of the paragraph on page Kuf Chof Aleph 121. The last paragraph, where Rabbi Yoel brings their argument, the argument of the Satmar. The Gemara says, "Moridim v'lei mailen." There's certain people that you're mora, you descend, you lower, and you don't elevate. And if that's the case, it would apply to the Rishayim, to Kofrim. So Rabbi Yoel brings from the Shilas Yavitz, from Yaakov Emden, and he brings that this doesn't apply in a situation where there's a chance for them to do tshuva. And since we believe every Yid can do tshuva, that's what we should do. And he also brought in the next into the paragraph, the last paragraph we learned yesterday, that the Chazon Ish, who was, of course, the father figure of the Litvisher movement in the 1930s and 40s in Eretz Yisrael and Bnei Brak, he paskins in Yeridea that we should be mochiach. We should scold them so that they do tshuva. So what we see clearly is whether it's the Yavitz of the 1700s or it's the Chazon Ish of the 1930s and 40s, etc. They believe that the idea of moridin is only a last resort when the person doesn't want to do tshuva. So now let's go to the last paragraph, page Kuf Chof Aleph Avram. Last paragraph. Shaharei Kol adin shel moridin v'lei mailin eina pirush shemechuyev misa ka'onish al chetoi. When the Gemara speaks about moridin v'lei mailin, it doesn't mean that you're obligated to have misa to as a punishment for your sin. She'oz lo yimahani tshuva lepotre moinish shelamato. If someone did a sin here below, right? How can tshuva, which is a spiritual thing, remove the punishment? Kamay hamechuyav malchus u'misas bezdin shalei mahanilem tshuva lepotre lemata belam hazamene shalehem. What he's saying is simple. If someone is mechuyav al pidin malchus, and then you say he did tshuva, will the bezdin still give him malchus? Absolutely. Right? Because that's the way the halacha works. The Torah made a decree. For this sin you get malchus. You could do tshuva spiritually, and the blemish will be removed from your heart, and you'll have Olam Haba, the world to come, but you're still getting petch. You're still getting malchus. And he says, Moshe, we're in the last paragraph, 5 lines down. Varak, in order that Yidden shouldn't be lost and their faith in God shouldn't be lost, as long as they didn't do tshuva, the Torah says, in that situation, you're obligated to die. Now, migdar milsa means, migdar comes to the word gather, a fence, milsa means something. In other words, the Torah says, look, we don't want you to come to do this sin, so we're going to give a gather. We're going to make an enactment, a border, so you don't get so far, right? The same thing on Mountain Torah, right? Hashem says you're not allowed to come on the mountain. So what did we do? He had a fence built around the mountain further away so that it'll prevent you from getting to the mountain. The same idea is here. The Keinu lehegya mipirush mishnayis larambam peidakama dechulam mishnah beis. He gives you a citation. Please turn to page to Kuflav Beis, top of the page. This is what the Rambam writes. Oinshin oison shalei yafsidu es Yisrael. We punish them so that Jews aren't lost and faith is not lost. So what do we see? The objective is that the faith of a Jew and the Jewish people shouldn't be lost. And therefore, we enact punishment. But what's the ultimate purpose? Not the punishment. The ultimate purpose is they should do tshuva. But in order not to go too far, we make an enactment. And he says, he says the Chazon Ish on the Rambam. It says the same thing. He quotes the Chazon Ish. The ha ikir hadin, the moridin, this law, the primary law of Moridin, al korchachi mishum migdar milsa. It's only because of making offense. V'sho tzricha lekach. It's a temporary thing that was necessary. Lasas gedel l'tzorich sho ad kan. So what do we see? That it's only a temporary thing. So in other words, that's not where it's at. To curse Jews and want their death is against Torah. To prevent Jews from going further, that's within Torah. So therefore, what should be the hope of us towards the sinner, those that sin? It should be that they do tshuva. Since this was only done, the punishment is only done to remove a greater obstacle, as citing, quoting the words of the Rambam, we understand simply, and explicitly, Chazon Ish of the Yavitz Anal, and the two-sided sources, the Chazon Ish and the Yavitz, the Yaakov Emden, mitzvah gedola lachzire b'tshuva, that it's a mitzvah, it's a great mitzvah, not just Moshe mitzvah, but it's a great mitzvah to make them do tshuva, bring people to do tshuva. There's no greater removal of an obstacle if you give a person a chance to do tshuva and be mekurev to Torah, become closer to Torah. Rabbi Yoel now summarizes, from all of the above citations, it is clear and explicit that even heretics and even minim and apikursim, our heretics are able to do teshuva, and those that put forth effort to bring them to do tshuva, they've done very well, very good. And this is God's will. The next argument, that those that are sinners are infants that have been captured in war. Everything was said until now is about complete heretics who halacha says you should lower them. Let's skip the parentheses. Rabbi says, but in our situation, in today's situation, the whole idea of Moridim, V'lei Mailan doesn't apply. Ki ha'koifrim shebiyameinu, and we've discussed this many times in our shiurim. The heretics in our days, including those that write Zioni, Zeh Russia, like you cited a few weeks ago, Isser Rubam, majority of them. Rabbi doesn't write all of them, but the Rubam, Kekulam, the majority amongst most of them, Haim Tinoikish and Ishbu, they are captives. They don't know better, these people who are doing these sins and not observing and all that. They were educated in different kibbutzim of Ashar B'koinis. Okay, so Shemer Atzoyer, the kibbutz that was totally against the Torah and all that, what do you want? The leaders, you can argue, the leaders will be punished, for misleading. But everyone else, all those that were raised in those kibbutzim, what do you want from them? They're tinoikish shenishbu. They're infants that have been captured. And he says, they don't know the difference in these kibbutzim. Shalei ben Yehudim shomri Torah mitzvahs. They don't know the difference between a frum Jew and a non-frum Jew. They never heard and they don't know about Torah. And I have to tell you, Chevra, this is exactly the case today. Rabbi Yoel says the whole halacha of Meridim v'lei Mailim, they're punished, and 1 second, Moshe, doesn't apply to them. Therefore, absolutely, surely is a mitzvah to bring them closer to the strength of Torah, the children of the Sadducees, I think. These people who are lost, and their grandchildren, it's like a child has been captured. The Rambam says it's appropriate to bring to tshuva, and to attract them to Torah through words of peace, till they return to the strength of Torah. I want to finish this paragraph, and then I'll take your question if there's time. V'chein posuk ha-mechaber b'shulchan aruch Yedei Sim Kuften Tes. V'chein posuk Admor HaZoken, he brings the Alter Rebbe b'Hilchos Ribos. Quotes that, and he quotes the Shach, next paragraph, and then he brings the Nesiva Mitzvah Secha. Okay, I'm going to the next page, Kuf Chav Gimel, because that's a citation that he quotes over here. Okay, basically, we'll take down Moshe's question, just the last line of this paragraph on Kuf Chav Gimel, before the word Shita Sachsam Sefer, it says, V'yidur Piskim Harayas. It's known the slogan of the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, as an apikoides darf sein adaiten. Okay. You heard of the word das, right? In Chabad, we talk a lot about Chochma Bina Das. What's Moshe Das? Not just knowledge, but focus, maturity, velvel. So the Frierdiker Rebbe says, an apikoides, right? Who supposedly knows all this Torah and nevertheless rebels, needs to be adaiten, needs to be strong in the area of das, of common sense and maturity. And many times, or most times, they aren't. They can have a lot of information, but their das is weak. Yes, Moshe, what do you want to ask?
What's when you say the Shach is in the Shach from the Shulchan Aruch?
Yeah, the Shach is the Sifsei. Shach is an acronym for Sifsei Kohen. Lived about 500 years ago, 400 or 500 years ago, I think, in Poland maybe, Galicia, I'm not sure. The Sifsei Kohen, yes, on the Shulchan Aruch. Yeah. Sifsei Kohen, yes.
Because I know there's also like a Shach on the Torah, but it's someone else. It's somebody else. So I'm just curious. But I guess this would make sense. There's a Shach on the Shulchan Aruch.
Okay. Yeah, Shach on Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. So what we have here is this Shita. Now, we're not going to start this next part. The next part is the famous Shita, the Chassam Sefer, which the Satmar swear by that. Because by them, the Chassam Sefer, although he was from Preshburg, but it's close enough to Satmari. You know, it's just so funny. Like, you're a Hungarian. You're staunch in Hungary, right? Who becomes your father figure, the Chassam Sefer, who was Ashkenaz? Now, maybe Satmar also originally was Ashkenaz. I don't know if you know that. I think so, but it became later Sfard. But the whole idea, of finding the Chassam Sefer and making him the father figure, again, Chassam Sefer was a very big tzaddik and a very big posek and everything else. But it's like, why don't you find, from your own people to point to? They took the Chassam Sefer, and in a way, they made the Chassam Sefer their baby. It's like many people accuse Chabad and Brisk of taking the Rambam and making the Rambam their baby. The Brisk, in understanding Rambam and Chabad and learning Rambam, right? The Rambam is Klal Yisrael. No Brisk, no Chabad, it's Klal Yisrael. Well, in the same way, the Chassam Sefer. But because the Chassam Sefer fought the Nerlogin, about the Nerlogin, the reform in Hungary and that whole region, he fought them. Therefore, he became a symbol of fighting what they call the Apikurim, the reform, and the Zionists as well, and all of that. So he becomes like their go-to, and because he was a Pesach, and a Pesach that was accepted by everyone, or pretty much everyone, therefore he becomes the father figure. So therefore, Reb Yoel, here in the next upcoming paragraph, is going to take a look at the Shita of the Chassam Sefer on these issues, and then dissect it as he's done all along. But that's why the caption over here to the upcoming paragraph, Shita Chassam Sefer, stands out. And the Chassam Sefer, as we learned it inside and we repeated it many times, Chodesh Asa Min HaTorah. And that's a slogan, Chodesh, something that is new, is forbidden, Min HaTorah, That's something that it's a hand that fits the glove so properly in the Satmar vantage point. Don't do any chidushim. Walk, behave, and look just like you were in Europe 150, 200 years ago. The truth is that when the Lubavitch Yeshiva Tomchei Tmimim was started by the Rebbe Rashab and his son, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and I forget which chassid, a big chassid yet of the Tzemach Tzedek, saw the yeshiva, he said that Rashab turned the clock back 100 years or something.
I think we're almost at it.
Someone has their mute on. Hillel, please mute yourself.
I'm going to go into share for the next half hour or so.
Anyway, Hillel, mute.
Oh, turn your mute, hello.
Anyway, so so you ask, what's the difference, sir?
How come your room so big?
Hold on, can I mute?
Hillel's like, turn on your mute. Hillel, please turn your mute.
And then I'm free, and from Mincha, which is I'll be leaving at 4:20 or so. And then,
Wait a minute.
sure.
Terrible. I should be able to control it, Moshe, no?
I'll be flexible. I'll check back in when I'm done. I'll check.
I'm calling Hillel now. He's muted.
Okay.
He's muted.
He's not muted.
Was.
Okay, what time is it?
He's muted now.
I know, I need to know the time anyway.
2:58.
Okay, I got 2 minutes. I have to leave early today. But what's the difference between the Rashab, the saying that the Rashab brought Lubavitch back 100 years, the yeshiva of Chabad in 1897, 1900, turned the clock back 100 years, in other words, with its attitudes. And that's the answer. It's with its attitudes. And the attitudes do not include cursing Jews, hating Jews, and things like that. That was the furthest thing from Tomchei Tmimim. It was predicated on Pedek Lamed Beis and Tanya. And even, I was telling to someone here yesterday, even the way they registered and accepted students in yeshiva did not require velvel, you should be a Talmud Chacham. You know that? It required one thing, Kabbalah Soil. Are you willing to listen to the program? And if we tell you to learn Chassidus, you'll learn Chassidus, and you'll learn Nigla, and you'll daven. And don't think it went so easy. They also had issues, and you had to work it out, and the Rashab wrote essays. But that was his criteria for joining the yeshiva. Not that you had to have a white yarmulke, a red yarmulke, a blue yarmulke. And they dressed very, as I told you, they were very poor, and they dressed in a very Hasidic way, but that wasn't the criteria. The Mashgiach Shilem, the famous Shilem, it was known as, the Shilem came from a gymnasium. And he started to learn. It was accepted in Tomchei Tmimim. He didn't have a pedigree of being some kind of great Talmud Chacham with a family that was, so meyuchas, so special. And he became Shilem the Mashgiach in Tomchei Tmimim. That was the Rashab. The same Rashab that you say about his yeshiva, he turned it back 100 years. He accepts someone from a gymnasium. The Satmar Shita of the way they interpret it means to the point where you squash and squeeze and oppress everyone else. It's day and night. Hillel, I'm sorry you came on late. You'll have to hear the shir if you want, because I do have to go. I feel for you. I have to go today.
I want to apologize if my mute button got pressed.
Right. So in the future, try to make sure, because we heard the whole conversation of you and your wife. It was very nice, very respectful. Anyway, we will have shir tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. I wish everyone a good day, and Afreil Chanukah. Shalom. Bye-bye. Take care.